The alien judges sat high above the courtroom floor. Their faces showed no emotion as they looked down at the humans standing below them. The Galactic Tribunal had made its decision after months of talks. Humanity had gone too far during the border wars. They were too violent, too aggressive, too dangerous to live among the peaceful species of the galaxy. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood straight and proud. Her hands were tied behind her back, but her eyes burned with defiance. Around her stood 49,999 other humans. All of them had been declared criminals by the alien court. Their crime was simple: being human. The lead judge was a tall, thin creature with blue skin and 6 arms. It spoke in a cold voice that echoed through the massive chamber. Humans of Earth, you have been found guilty of excessive violence and aggression. The penalty for your crimes is death. Elena felt her heart sink. She had expected this. The other alien species feared humanity's ability to fight. They had won too many battles, adapted too quickly, survived too much. The galaxy wanted them gone, but the judge was not finished speaking. However, this court chooses to show mercy. Instead of execution, you will be sent to Thanatos Prime. If you can survive there for 50 years, your species will be forgiven. A murmur went through the crowd of humans. Thanatos Prime was legendary throughout the galaxy. It was known as the deadliest planet in known space. No species had ever survived there for more than 3 months. The planet itself seemed designed to kill any living thing that landed on it. The judge continued. You will be given basic survival equipment. Nothing more. The galaxy will check on your progress in 50 years. We expect to find only your bones. Elena heard some of the humans behind her start to cry. Others began to pray. A few even laughed at the dark humor of their situation. The galaxy's idea of mercy was to throw them onto a planet that would slowly torture them to death instead of killing them quickly. The transport ships arrived 3 days later. They were old, ugly vessels that looked like metal boxes with engines attached. The aliens clearly had not wasted money on comfort for their prisoners. Elena and the other humans were loaded into cramped cargo holds, like livestock being shipped to market. The journey to Thanatos Prime took 2 weeks. During that time, Elena organized the survivors. She divided them into groups based on their skills. Scientists, engineers, doctors, soldiers, farmers, teachers. Everyone had a role to play if they wanted to survive. They made plans, shared knowledge, and prepared for what was coming. Dr. James Chun, a biologist, studied everything the ship's computers could tell them about Thanatos Prime. The planet was covered in acid storms that could melt metal. The gravity was twice that of Earth, strong enough to crush human bones if they were not careful. Thousands of different predators hunted across the planet's surface. Even the plants were carnivorous, able to digest any organic matter that touched them. It's like someone designed this planet specifically to kill anything that tries to live here. Dr. Chun told Elena as they reviewed the data. Maybe they did, Elena replied. But humans have survived worse places than this. We came from Africa, survived ice ages, and made it to space. We're still here for a reason. When the transport ships finally reached Thanatos Prime, Elena got her first look at their new home through a small window. The planet was covered in red and black clouds. Lightning flashed constantly through the atmosphere. The surface was a mix of jagged mountains, boiling seas, and twisted forests that looked more like nightmares than real places. The alien crew did not even land properly. They simply opened the cargo doors while flying low over a relatively flat area near some black cliffs. Get out, the ship's captain ordered. Your equipment is in the storage containers. Good luck. You will need it. Crates of basic supplies fell from the ships onto the ground below. Then the humans were forced to jump. Elena went first. hitting the ground hard despite the cushioned landing gear they had been given. The gravity immediately pressed down on her like a heavy weight. Every step took effort. Every breath was a struggle. Around her, other humans landed and began gathering together. The air smelled of sulfur and decay. In the distance, Elena could hear strange sounds, howls, roars, and clicking noises that definitely did not come from any Earth animal dot as the last human jumped from the ships. The alien vessels lifted off and disappeared into the stormy sky. Elena watched them go, then looked around at her people. 50,000 humans stood in a rough circle, surrounded by crates of supplies and the most hostile environment any of them had ever seen. "Listen up," Elena called out, her voice carrying across the group. "They think this is our grave. They think this planet will kill us all within a few months. They expect to come back in 50 years and find nothing but our bones scattered across this wasteland." She paused, looking at each face she could see. Fear, determination, anger, and hope mixed together in their expressions. "Well, I have news for them," Elena continued. "Humans don't give up. We don't lie down and die just because something is difficult. We adapt. We survive. We overcome. This planet may be deadly, but we're deadlier. This world may be hostile, but we're more stubborn than any environment." Thunder crashed overhead as if the planet itself was responding to her challenge. Elena smiled grimly. "They sent us here to die. Instead, we're going to live. We're going to build something they never expected. And in 50 years, when they come back, we're going to show them exactly what happens when you try to kill humanity." The first drops of acid rain began to fall from the dark sky. The humans quickly moved their supplies under the shelter of the black cliffs. Their new life on the deadliest planet in the galaxy had begun, but they were not afraid. They were human. And humans had a very simple philosophy when it came to impossible situations. Hold on, adapt, and prove everyone wrong. 6 months had passed since the humans landed on Thanatos Prime. The alien judges who had sent them there expected the planet to be quiet by now, filled only with human bones and the sounds of native predators feeding. They were wrong. Elena Vasquez stood on a metal platform that jutted out from the cliff face. Below her, a thriving human settlement stretched across what had once been barren wasteland. The sight still amazed her, even after watching it grow day by day. The acid rain that fell constantly from the red sky no longer ate through their equipment. Instead, it flowed through a network of collection channels into processing plants that the humans had built. Engineer Maria Santos had figured out how to use the acid as a power source. Now the same rain that was supposed to kill them provided electricity for their growing community. "The morning production report, Ambassador," said Commander Rex Thompson as he joined her on the platform. Rex had been a military officer before the trial. Now he managed their defense and hunting operations. Elena took the tablet from him and read through the numbers. Food production was up 30% from last month. The underground cities now housed 48,000 people comfortably. The tunnel networks connecting their settlements had grown to over 200 miles long. "What about the predators?" Elena asked. Rex grinned. "That's the best part. Remember those pack hunters that killed 15 of our people in the first month? The ones with the poison claws and acid spit?" Elena nodded. Those creatures had been terrifying. They hunted in groups of hundreds, were as big as horses, and could chew through metal with their teeth. "We've domesticated them," Rex said proudly. "Turns out they're actually pretty smart. Dr. Chun figured out their pack behavior, and now we have about 200 of them working with our hunting teams. They even help guard the settlements at night." Elena shook her head in amazement. Only humans would respond to deadly predators by making them pets. Dr. James Chun emerged from a tunnel entrance, carrying a stack of research papers and looking excited. This was his normal expression these days. The biologist had been studying Thanatos Prime's ecosystem since they arrived, and every day brought new discoveries. "Elena, you need to see this," Dr. Chen said, spreading his papers across a nearby table. "I've been tracking the evolutionary changes in the local life forms over the past 6 months. The results are, well, they're unprecedented." Elena and Rex moved closer to look at his charts and graphs. Dr. Chen pointed to a series of lines that showed changes over time. "Look at this pattern," he said. "Every time we adapt to something on this planet, the ecosystem tries to evolve a counter-adaptation. When we learned to neutralize the acid rain, the plants started producing stronger acids. When we domesticated the pack hunters, other predators became more aggressive." "That sounds normal," Elena said. "Evolution responding to environmental pressure." "But here's the thing," Dr. Chen continued, his voice getting more excited. "The ecosystem is losing. Every time Thanatos Prime develops a new threat, we humans develop 3 different ways to deal with it. The planet's evolutionary pressure is being outpaced by human creativity and stubbornness." Rex laughed. "You're saying we're evolving faster than an entire planet?" "Not evolving," Dr. Chung corrected. "Adapting. And yes, we're doing it much faster than the planet can respond. Look at this example." He pointed to another chart. 3 months ago, the carnivorous plants started producing toxins that could penetrate our protective suits. Within 2 weeks, we had developed new materials that were immune to the toxins. But we didn't stop there. We also figured out how to harvest the toxins for our own use, and we learned how to cultivate the plants as defensive barriers around our settlements. Elena studied the data. "You're saying that every attack from this planet becomes a resource for us?" "Exactly," Dr. Chun said. "The planet throws acid storms at us, so we build acid-powered generators. It sends pack hunters, so we make them our allies. It grows poisonous plants, so we turn them into walls and weapons. We're not just surviving Thanatos Prime. We're making it work for us." The 3 humans stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching their people work below. Children played in areas that had been killing zones 6 months ago. Farmers tended gardens where deadly predators once roamed. Engineers built new structures using materials that had been trying to dissolve them just months before. "There's something else," Dr. Chun said quietly. "Something I can't quite explain yet. What kind of something?" Elena asked. Dr. Chun hesitated before answering. "I've been monitoring energy patterns across the planet. There's something here that's not part of the natural ecosystem. Something that's been watching us. Another species?" Rex asked, his hand moving automatically to the weapon at his side. "No, nothing like that," Dr. Chun said. "This is bigger, older. I think it might be connected to why this planet is so deadly in the first place." Elena frowned. "You think Thanatos Prime was designed to be a death world?" "I think something here feeds on death," Dr. Chun said. "And I think we're making it very, very hungry. Far beneath the human settlements, in caves that went deeper than any human had yet explored, something ancient stirred. It had been sleeping for thousands of years, content to let the planet above do its work. Thanatos Prime had always been efficient at killing whatever was sent to it. The energy released by dying creatures had fed it well, but now something was wrong. The steady flow of death energy had slowed to a trickle. Instead of the usual panic and despair that marked the species' final months on the planet, there was something else in the air. There was laughter. There was hope. There was the sound of construction and growth. The ancient presence extended its awareness upward, trying to understand what was happening. It found humans working where there should have been corpses. It found thriving settlements where there should have been ruins. It found life growing stronger where it should have been dying. For the first time in its existence, the presence felt something it had never experienced before: confusion. And beneath that confusion, the faintest hint of something even more foreign, Concerned dot above ground, Elena Vasquez looked out over her people and smiled. They had survived the deadliest planet in the galaxy for 6 months. They had not just survived, they had prospered. You know what I think? Elena said to her companions. I think the galaxy made a mistake when they sent us here. How so? Rex asked. They thought this planet would kill us, Elena said. Instead, I think we're going to kill it. In the depths below, the ancient presence heard those words and felt something new. A cold chill that had nothing to do with the planet's temperature. For the first time in eons, it began to wonder if it was the one in danger. The first sign that something had changed came on a Tuesday morning when the volcano erupted. Exactly at shift change, Maria Santos was leading her engineering team to the geothermal plant they had built near the mountains base when the ground began to shake. This was not unusual. Thanatos Prime had earthquakes almost daily, but this time felt different. The tremors followed a pattern, almost like the planet was trying to time something. Everyone back to the tunnels! Maria shouted as red lava began pouring down the mountainside. But instead of flowing randomly as it always had before, the lava moved in a straight line directly toward their power plant. That's not possible, said Tommy Chun, her lead technician. Lava doesn't flow uphill. The plant is on higher ground than the volcano's base. Maria watched in disbelief as the molten rock defied gravity and physics, reaching toward their installation like a giant, glowing finger. It's not possible, but it's happening. The planet is targeting us specifically. Within hours, similar reports came from across all human settlements. Acid storms that changed direction to hit their farms. Predator migrations that left their normal hunting grounds to attack human outposts. Even the carnivorous plants began growing faster and reaching toward human structures with obvious intent. Dr. James Chun called an emergency meeting in the main underground chamber. Representatives from all 57 human settlements gathered around a large table made from processed local materials. The mood was tense, but not panicked. Humans had learned to treat new problems as puzzles to solve rather than disasters to fear. The planet is fighting back, Dr. Chun announced without introduction. Not just evolving in response to our presence, actively, intelligently fighting back. Elena Vasquez leaned forward in her chair. You're saying Thanatos Prime is alive? I'm saying it's aware, Dr. Chun corrected. My sensors have detected coordinated neural activity across the entire planetary surface. Something down there has woken up, and it's very angry about our success. Commander Rex Thompson laughed grimly. So we've made the planet itself mad. That's gotta be some kind of record. It gets worse, Dr. Chung continued. The consciousness seems to be learning from each attack. When we redirected the first lava flow, the next eruption tried 3 different approaches. When we repelled the coordinated predator assault on Settlement 7, the next wave came with backup plans. Maria Santos raised her hand. Actually, I think we need to talk about something else. The lava flow that tried to destroy our geothermal plant, we've managed to redirect it into a new power system. We're now generating 40% more electricity than we were yesterday. A murmur of approval went around the table. Rex nodded approvingly. Same thing happened with the predator attacks. We captured about 300 of the creatures that tried to overrun Settlement 12. They're now part of our defense force. Dr. Chun stared at his colleagues. Don't you understand? The planet is actively trying to kill us with everything it has. This is unprecedented in galactic history. So is surviving this long on Thanatos Prime, Elena pointed out. We're not just going to survive this new challenge. We're going to turn it into an advantage, just like everything else this world has thrown at us. Over the following weeks, the war between humanity and Thanatos Prime escalated. The planet's consciousness learned to coordinate attacks with devastating precision. volcanic eruptions timed to destroy mining operations, acid storms that lasted for weeks instead of hours, predator packs that worked together in ways that defied their natural behavior, but humanity responded with characteristic stubbornness. Every attack became a resource. Every trap became a tool. Every weapon became an opportunity. When the planet coordinated a massive earthquake to collapse the tunnel system connecting the northern settlements, humans used the rubble to build better fortifications and the cracks to create a new underground river system. When carnivorous plants began growing at superhuman speed to strangle human buildings, botanist Dr. Sarah Kim developed a way to control their growth and turned them into living walls that could repair themselves and defend against other threats. When the planet somehow learned to direct its predators in complex military-style formations, Commander Rex simply studied their tactics and adopted the best strategies for human use. It's like playing chess with a planet, Rex told Elena after successfully defending against the 15th coordinated assault. Every time it makes a move, we turn that move against it. But something else was happening that none of the humans had noticed yet. In the deepest caves of Thanatos Prime, the ancient presence was no longer alone. Something had come to investigate the disturbance. On the planet's surface, Mortality itself had arrived, the cosmic force that claimed all living. Things in the universe had felt the strange resistance. Emanating from Thanatos Prime, for eons, Mortality had swept across worlds, claiming every life form with the same easy inevitability as gravity pulling objects downward. But here, on this deadly planet that was supposed to kill everything, something was pushing back. Mortality manifested as a tall, shadowy figure that moved through the planet's caves like smoke made solid. It had come to see these creatures that the planet could not kill. It expected to find some new form of life, perhaps something immune to death through advanced technology or genetic manipulation. Instead, it found humans, and humans were definitely not immune to death. Mortality could see that clearly. They were fragile, short-lived creatures made of meat and bone. They died from disease, injury, old age, and accident, just like every other organic species in the galaxy. But they died. Wrong. Mortality watched as a human engineer was killed in a mining accident, crushed by falling rocks when a tunnel collapsed. The cosmic force moved to claim the human soul, as it had billions of times before. But as the man died, his last words were not a cry of fear or pain. The support beam design needs to be reinforced at the third joint. The dying engineer gasped to his teammates. Use the new alloy we developed from the acid worm secretions. That'll prevent this from happening again. Mortality paused in confusion. The human was dying, but instead of accepting death, he was using his final moments to solve the problem that had killed him. Within hours, the humans had not only rescued the engineer's body and held a proper funeral for him, but they had also redesigned their entire tunnel system based on his dying words. The accident that should have weakened them had instead made their structures stronger. Mortality felt something it had never experienced in its eternal existence: uncertainty. These creatures acknowledged death, mourned their losses, and then immediately began working to prevent future deaths. They treated mortality not as an inevitable end, but as an engineering problem to be solved. For the first time since the universe began, mortality wondered if it had found something it could not claim. Not because these humans were immortal, but because they refused to accept that death was the end of anything. And that thought scared the cosmic force more than anything ever had. Mortality decided to reveal itself during the humans' evening meal. The cosmic force materialized in the center of Settlement 1's main dining hall. Expecting the usual response to its presence, screams of terror, people falling to their knees in worship or despair, the immediate recognition that death itself had come for them. Instead, Engineer Tommy Chun, looked up from his bowl of processed protein and acid fruit stew and said, "Hey, you're blocking the serving line." Mortality paused. This was not the reaction it was used to. The shadowy figure towered 12 feet tall, radiated an aura of inevitable doom, and carried the weight of every death that had ever occurred in the universe. Most species immediately understood what it was and responded with appropriate fear. "I am Mortality," the cosmic force announced in a voice that echoed with the last breaths of 1,000,000,000,000 souls. "I am the end of all things. I have come to claim this world." Dr. Sarah Kim, a quantum physicist who had been working on some particularly difficult equations while eating, looked up with interest. "Oh, you're the metaphysical entity that Dr. Chun detected, the one connected to this planet's death-focused ecosystem. Are you available for some questions? I've been trying to understand how consciousness can exist on a cosmic scale." Mortality felt something it had never experienced before, confusion mixed with irritation. These humans were not cowering in terror. They were treating it like a research subject. "You do not understand," Mortality said, raising its voice until the walls of the dining hall trembled. "I am death itself. Every living thing in the universe bows before my power. I end civilizations with a thought. I bring kingdoms to dust with a whisper." Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood up from her table and walked over to the towering figure. She was 67 years old now, her hair completely gray, but her eyes still burned with the same defiance that had carried humanity through their first day on Thanatos Prime. "That's nice, dear," Elena said in the tone she might use with an overexcited child. "But we're kind of in the middle of dinner right now. Could you maybe come back later? We have a settlement council meeting at 8, but we should be free around 9:30. Mortality stared down at the small human woman who's treating the cosmic force of death like a minor inconvenience. For several long moments, the dining hall was completely silent. Then Dr. Sarah Kim spoke up again. "Actually, since you're here, could you help settle an argument? Tommy thinks that consciousness requires a physical substrate, but I think it can exist as organized energy patterns in quantum fields. Which one of us is right?" The cosmic entity that had ended countless civilizations found itself engaged in a philosophical debate about the nature of consciousness while humans ate dinner around it. This was definitely not how these encounters usually went. "You are missing the point," Mortality said, trying to regain control of the situation. "I have come to harvest your souls. This planet was meant to kill you all months ago. Your continued existence is disrupting the natural order." Commander Rex Thompson, now in his 70s but still built like a soldier, laughed. "Natural order? Friend, we gave up on natural order the day we decided to domesticate acid-spitting death lizards. If you want to talk about disrupting things, you should see what we did to the local ecosystem." Mortality decided to demonstrate its power. It reached out with its cosmic energy and claimed the soul of Dr. James Chun, who had been working late in his laboratory. The biologist's body collapsed as his life force was pulled into the cosmic void. The humans in the dining hall felt the familiar sadness that came with losing one of their own. But instead of the despair and hopelessness that Mortality expected, something else happened. "Oh no," said Maria Santos, Dr. Chen's research partner. He was in the middle of analyzing the protein chains from those new symbiotic organisms. "Tommy, can you go get his notes? We need to finish that work before his data becomes useless." "Already on it," Tommy replied, pulling out his communication device. "I'm accessing his lab computer now." He uploaded his latest findings this morning. Mortality watched in growing bewilderment as the humans immediately began continuing Dr. Chun's work. They mourned his loss, yes, but they treated his death as a temporary setback rather than a final ending. Within minutes, they were building on his research and making his discoveries even better. "This is not how death works," Mortality said. its voice carrying a note of something that might have been desperation. Dr. Sarah Kim looked up from the tablet where she was reviewing Dr. Chun's final notes. Actually, I think I understand what's happening here. You're operating under the assumption that consciousness and achievement are tied to individual biological existence. They are, Mortality insisted. When something dies, it ends. That is the fundamental law of the universe. Maybe for other species, Dr. Sarah Kim said thoughtfully. But humans work differently. We don't just live as individuals. We live as a collective. When one of us dies, their knowledge, their achievements, their contributions become part of the whole. Death might end the individual, but it doesn't end what they built or what they discovered. To prove her point, Dr. Sarah Kim began working on a device she had been theorizing about for months. Using Dr. Chun's final research combined with her own quantum consciousness theories, she created something that should have been impossible, a machine that could briefly separate consciousness from biological death. When tested on recently deceased tissue samples, the device managed to maintain neural activity for several hours after clinical death. The implications were staggering. We could give dying people enough time to finish their important work, Dr. Sarah Kim explained to the increasingly agitated Mortality. Death becomes just a deadline to work around, not an ending. Mortality felt something it had never experienced in its eternal existence: fear. These creatures were not just refusing to accept death as final. They were treating it as an engineering problem to be solved. The cosmic force tried to claim more human souls, thinking that a larger demonstration of its power would finally break their spirits. But each death only made the humans more determined. When a construction worker was claimed, his team immediately implemented the safety improvements he had suggested the day before. When a teacher died, her students began teaching each other, spreading her knowledge even further than she had managed alone. Elena Vasquez approached the increasingly frantic cosmic entity. "You know what your problem is?" she said kindly. "You think death is about ending things. But for humans, death has always been about beginning things. We die so the next generation can live better. We sacrifice so others can succeed. Death isn't our enemy. It's our motivation." Mortality looked around the dying hall at these impossible creatures who had turned the cosmic force of death into a minor inconvenience. They had not conquered death. They had made it irrelevant. For the first time in the history of the universe, Mortality considered the possibility that it might be the one in danger. As Elena Vasquez lay dying from acid exposure the next day, she used her final breath to dictate improvements to protective gear designs. Mortality tried to claim her soul, but found that her consciousness had somehow spread throughout the entire human community. Her voice lived on in their communication systems. Her knowledge lived on in their procedures. Her determination lived on in their attitudes. Death had claimed her body, but Elena Vasquez refused to actually die, and Mortality finally understood why it was afraid. 50 years after the transport ships had dumped 50,000 human prisoners onto the deadliest planet in the galaxy, the Galactic Tribunal's monitoring fleet arrived at Thanatos Prime, expecting to catalog bones. Admiral Kekstara, the same blue-skinned being who had pronounced humanity's sentence half a century ago, stood on the bridge of the lead vessel and stared at the sensor readings in complete disbelief. "These readings must be wrong," the Admiral said to his science officer. "Run the scan again." The science officer, a nervous creature with too many eyes and not enough confidence, checked the instruments 3 times before responding. "Admiral, the readings are correct. The planet's atmospheric composition has completely changed. The acid content has dropped to nearly 0. The electromagnetic storms have stopped. The surface temperature has stabilized within normal ranges for most galactic species." Admiral Kekstara felt his 4 hearts skip several beats. Are you telling me that Thanatos Prime is no longer a death world? Sir, according to our sensors, it's now classified as a garden world. Paradise-level habitability rating. The Admiral's 6 arms trembled as he processed this information. Thanatos Prime had been the galaxy's execution site for over 3,000 years. Nothing survived there. Nothing could survive there. The planet's ecosystem was specifically designed to kill everything that touched its surface. Take us into orbit, Admiral Kexthara ordered. I want to see this with my own eyes. As the monitoring fleet entered Thanatos Prime's atmosphere, Admiral Kexthara got his first clear look at the planet's surface. What he saw made him question his own sanity. Where there had once been seas of acid, now crystal clear lakes reflected the gentle sunlight. Where coniferous forests had grown, now organized farmland stretched as far as the eye could see. Where jagged mountains had jutted up like broken teeth, now smooth terraces had been carved to create beautiful gardens and residential areas. And everywhere, absolutely everywhere, there were structures that could only have been built by intelligent beings. Cities that seemed to grow organically from the landscape. Bridges that spanned impossible distances. Towers that reached into the sky like metal trees. Sir, the communications officer called out. We're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. Put it through, Admiral Kexthara said weakly. The main screen flickered to life, showing a human face. It was an older woman with silver hair and kind eyes, but there was something familiar about her expression. Something defiant and proud that the Admiral remembered from 50 years ago. Greetings, Galactic Tribunal vessels, the woman said cheerfully. This is Director Elena Vasquez-Chun, speaking for the human colony of New Paradise. Welcome to Thanatos Prime. Please state your business. Admiral Kexthara stared at the screen. Elena Vasquez? But you should be dead? Elena asked with a smile that contained no humor whatsoever. Yes, well, Death and I have had a few disagreements over the years. We've worked them out, mostly. The Admiral's science officer leaned over and whispered urgently in his ear. Sir, our sensors show a human population of approximately 12 million people on the planet's surface. There are also readings that suggest several non-human species living in harmony with the humans. 12 million? Admiral Kexthara gasped. But we only sent 50,000 criminals there 50 years ago. Humans reproduce quite efficiently when they're not constantly fighting for survival, Elena explained. Also, several other species have asked to emigrate here over the years. Turns out that when you remove all the deadly aspects of a death world and keep all the interesting challenges, it becomes a very attractive place to live. Admiral Kexthara's mind was struggling to process what he was hearing. You removed the deadly aspects? How is that possible? Thanatos Prime's ecosystem was specifically engineered to be unsurvivable. Elena's expression grew more serious. Admiral, I think you misunderstood something about humanity 50 years ago. You saw us as violent and dangerous. You thought the galaxy would be safer with us gone. But you never asked why humans fight so much. Because you are an aggressive species, Admiral Kexthara said automatically. Because we don't accept impossible, Elena corrected. We fight because we refuse to believe that any problem can't be solved. You sent us to a planet designed to kill us, and we took that as a challenge to prove you wrong. The monitoring fleet's sensors continued to report impossible readings. The planet's core temperature had been somehow regulated. The atmospheric composition was perfectly balanced for multiple species. Even the planet's rotation had been slightly adjusted to optimize weather patterns. You to reform the entire planet, Admiral Kexthara said in a voice barely above a whisper. Oh, we did much more than that, Elena said proudly. We turned every single threat this world had into a resource. The acid storms now power our cities. The predators are part of our ecosystem maintenance teams. The carnivorous plants have been bred into the most effective defensive system in the galaxy. We didn't just terraform Thanatos Prime, we optimized it. Admiral Kexthara noticed something else on the sensor readings. There are no death energy signatures on this planet. None at all. How is that possible? Elena's smile became mysterious. Let's just say that mortality and humanity had a philosophical disagreement about the nature of endings. Mortality decided it would be more comfortable operating in other parts of the universe. The Admiral felt a chill run through his alien physiology. Mortality was a cosmic force. It existed everywhere in the universe simultaneously. The idea that it could be driven away from an entire planet was unthinkable. Admiral, his communications officer called out urgently. We're receiving transmissions from 17 different star systems. They all appear to be from human colonies. Elena nodded approvingly. Yes, we've been quite busy these past 50 years. Turns out that once you've solved the problem of making the deadliest planet in the galaxy livable, other impossible worlds become much more manageable. We've terraformed everything you people marked as uninhabitable. The galaxy is much larger now than it was when you sent us away. Admiral Kexthara's 6 arms went limp. 17 systems? But those worlds were considered absolutely impossible to colonize. We're being the important phrase there, Elena said. We prefer the term challenging. Humans tend to get bored when things are too easy. The Admiral looked around at his bridge crew, all of whom seemed to be sharing his state of shocked disbelief. What? What do you want from the galaxy? Revenge? Conquest? Elena laughed, and the sound was warm and genuinely amused. Admiral, we don't want anything from the galaxy, except to be left alone to do interesting work. You gave us the greatest gift any species could ask for, a completely impossible challenge. We're actually grateful. Grateful? Admiral Kexthara squeaked. Of course, Elena said. Before you sent us to Thanatos Prime, humans were scattered across dozens of worlds, never really pushing ourselves to achieve greatness. You forced us to work together, to innovate, to become everything we were capable of being. You turned us into the species we were always meant to be. She paused, and her expression became more serious. However, I should mention that we've taken the liberty of sending automated monitoring stations to every inhabited world in the galaxy. Nothing invasive, just keeping an eye on things. If any species ever decides to try forced relocation again, for any reason, we'll consider that a problem that needs solving. Admiral Kexthara understood the implication. The humans had become so technologically advanced that they could monitor the entire galaxy. And if they could monitor it, they could probably protect it. Or conquer it, if they chose to. The Galactic Tribunal hereby officially recognizes human sovereignty over all worlds you have colonized, Admiral Kexthara said quickly. Your species is welcome to rejoin galactic civilization whenever you choose. Thank you, Elena said graciously. We'll consider it. In the meantime, feel free to visit New Paradise anytime. We have some excellent restaurants now, and the scenery is quite lovely. Just don't bring any weapons or hostile intentions. Our security system has a very simple policy when it comes to threats, which is... Admiral Kexthara asked nervously. Elena's smile became predatory. We solved them, permanently. As the Galactic Tribunal fleet prepared to leave Thanatos Prime, Admiral Kexthara received one final transmission from the planet's surface. Oh, and Admiral? Elena's voice said, You might want to let the rest of the galaxy know that humanity has officially adopted Thanatos Prime's old motto as our species' new philosophy. What motto is that? Admiral Kexthara asked. Death may be universal, Elena said cheerfully, but it's not immune to being really, really annoyed. as the monitoring fleet jumped into hyperspace, fleeing the garden world that had once been the galaxy's most feared death trap. Admiral Caxthara made a note in his official report, recommendation for future Galactic Tribunal policy: never, under any circumstances, try to kill humanity by making them solve impossible problems. They enjoy it far too much. Far away, in a distant galaxy where it had fled to escape the philosophical impossibility that was human civilization, Mortality felt a cosmic shudder and hoped that humans would never discover interuniversal travel. It was probably hoping in vain.